Hello, and welcome to Beyond Bereavement, the Power of Planning. My name is Beatrice Tony Bailey, and I am your television host and the author of the book, Farewell, My Friend. Farewell, My Friend was written as a result of the many lessons I learned while taking care of my late husband. I found out during this very stressful time that it's not a matter of if a person's going to have to deal with these end-of-life issues, but when and who. Beyond Bereavement, the Power of Planning is a collaborative effort between the Interfaith Service Bureau and its television station, RCC TV, and Eastline Memorial Park. It's the desire of these organizations that Beyond Bereavement, the Power of Planning, function as a platform for interactive discussions between the various faith communities. Won't you join us? Hello, and welcome to Beyond Bereavement, the Power of Planning. My name is Beatrice Tony Bailey, and I am your host for tonight's episode. And as you can tell by now, our show has gone way beyond bereavement. We're so far beyond bereavement, we're now talking about raw foods. And in our presence today, we have the lovely Yvonne Edwards, and she is a recognized expert on raw foods. Now, before we give you the information on raw foods, I feel compelled to give you a disclaimer. The views you're going to hear are Yvonne's views based upon her experience and her education in the field of raw foods. The other thing is, it's not endorsed by RCC TV or the Interfaith Service Bureau, but we feel that it's a very interesting alternative way to approach food. Now, if you want to do this, we want to make sure you do consult your physician before you try a different kind of dietary plan. Also, a lot of what Yvonne is going to tell you is based upon the good book, or one of the good books, since this is the Interfaith Service Bureau, the Bible. Now, if the Bible's not your holy book, we're going to ask you not to change the channel, but to stay with us, because you're going to be able to find out some really good and interesting information. Yvonne, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been on diets for many, many years, and one day I just found one called the Hallelujah Diet, and it was predominantly raw. It was 85% raw and 15% cooked foods.
Do you do Hallelujah when you lose the weight, or how's that work?
I do sometimes. I would say I'm not 100% raw foodist. I tried it for a while. About 30 days I did raw, completely raw. And it's fine, but when you have a lifestyle and you're with people who eat regular foods, it becomes a challenge. You go to restaurants and you socialize. It can be a challenge. So one of the things I want to do is find a way of getting people to incorporate more raw foods, more fruits, more vegetables, more grains and seeds in their whole organic forms into their current diets.
Why do you think that we don't do that anyway? I mean, I can have a Big Mac in this program or something? Or a Whopper? Well, I don't eat beef, but...
you could have it, but instead of just having all junk, maybe add a little bit more raw. So with your Big Mac, maybe you have carrots with it and some celery instead of the fries. So you want to start incorporating more. For breakfast, maybe have fruit instead of cereal. So there's ways you can start changing, but without eliminating everything that you eat.
Isn't it true that in order for you to eat right, I don't care which diet you're going to go on, you've got to allow for a certain amount of preparation time? I mean, it takes time, in my opinion, to eat right.
Well, that's the key to anything, is preparation. You need to have some food in place. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to have foods available that will, the raw foods available. If you don't, you will end up going to the quickest thing, that's usually a convenience store, a fast food restaurant, and get what you don't really need for your body.
Or the donut shop?
Or the donut shop, or any of those places. So you want to have things available. You want to have fruit and vegetables in your at your home that's ready, accessible to you.
I guess the important thing is to start out early. I remember when my children were younger, and that I was very, very health conscious about what they ate. They didn't eat, drink. They were like 8 years old before they had Kool-Aid. They went down to visit their relatives in Southern California, actually had Kool-Aid, and they thought they were just rocking because they had Kool-Aid. Always fruit and juices. I never cooked out of a box. And when they were little, if they were really, really good, I said, Mommy's going to give you celery with peanut butter. And they go, yay! All their friends thought they were absolutely nuts. But again, they thought that was really quite a treat. It's really how you condition a child early on.
Correct. It's conditioning, not just at the child level, but as an adult, just changing some behavior patterns. And it can be done. You just got to rethink what's good for you, and not deprive. You don't want to go through deprivation, especially if you're used to eating what we call the standard American diet, the SAD diet. So that's what most Americans eat.
Standard American diet is sad. That's funny. That's true, though. That's funny.
So, you know, we're conditioned to that eating, and everything around us, commercials, media, everything's telling us to eat the Big Mac, to eat, you know, the highly processed foods. But you just have to make a change.
And I guess discipline would be more than the key. Now tell us a little bit about your eating God's way.
God's original eating plan. Well, one of the things in the Bible, and this is one thing I learned with the Hallelujah Diet and other readings that I've done, you know, if you go back and look at Genesis, you know, everything God created was good. And he created, in Genesis 1:29 and through 31, it talks about he created the fruits and vegetables and things like that. But it's very specific. What you don't realize is there are different types of fruits and vegetables he created. A lot of us just read through the Bible and we just ignore that. But he had the tree, the seed-bearing fruit from a tree, and he also the herb-bearing fruit or seed. And one is basically, that's fruits that come from a tree, which is a bush or a tree where it's something that stays stationary all year, but the flowering or the fruit comes seasonally.
That would be your oranges and,
correct,
and things of that sort.
And nuts. Your nuts come on trees like that. Then your other seed or come from where your grains come from. Once you harvest it, it's gone. It doesn't have a steady bearing tree or
trunk. It's got to grow from the ground up, literally.
Correct, correct. So your legumes, which are your beans, your grains, some of your succulent fruits, or vegetables, I should say, such as eggplant, bell peppers, things that we notice today. So those were two separate things God had intended for man, if you read in the Bible. He also intended certain things for the animals. And, you know, there's a big controversy that animals, you know, some of them are meat eaters and that they were made that way. But in the Bible, it talks about the green plant was made for the animals. It didn't specify certain types. It just said for the animals. And that would include your leafy greens, herbs, things like that.
Now, when you say leafy greens, we're going to not assume anyone's knowledge level. Like what? We're talking about spinach?
Lettuce, spinach, some of your tubers, which would be your potatoes, yams, things like that. I'm trying to think. Collard greens.
Not turnips. Turnips can't be good for the soul.
Turnips.
Turnips are nasty. They're nasty.
Turnips could be part of that. So you think about it, you know, they talk about animals have those fangs, so that was meant to tear the other animals up. But maybe those fangs were to tear through tubers, which are hard vegetables, you know.
Well, it's interesting. In one of our other episodes, we were talking about food and diet and things of this sort, and talking about animals. Animals now are coming down with the diseases that humans have. When I was a child, we didn't have dogs that had glaucoma or cancer or any of that. I mean, they choked on a chicken bone, we shouldn't have given them, or they got hit by a car. You know, they didn't have all these designer diseases that they have, and they're trying to make a correlation between, because it's so highly processed, the dog foods and that are so highly processed, they're picking up a lot of the physical and maybe physical ailments that we have.
Well, I would suggest maybe have a show where our food comes from.
Scary.
And, it's and the process it goes through, and it gets to, you know, from where it begins and to the point where it gets to on our plate, most people would be horrified. So, but I won't even go into that right now.
Now, how did you get, I mean, what were you do? You're sitting in your bed one day and said, you know what, I think I'm going to do this as a way of life. I mean, why?
I think I've gone on so many different diets. And so you know, when you go on a diet, you're limited to certain things that you eat. I just got tired of meat. Started off with red meat. So I stayed with the fish and the chicken, poultry and fish. And I just like vegetables. I've had a couple programs where I had just vegetables and fruit. Oh, I actually love fruit more so than vegetables. And they worked very well. And I noticed that if I just focused on those things, the weight would come off.
Well, what'd you do for protein? Because protein is a requirement.
Protein can come from plants as well as animal source is not the only source of protein. You can get your protein from your legumes, your beans.
And aren't olives a good source of protein?
Now that I'm not sure of.
I think of someone, when I was doing the zone diet, I think olives is considered a protein, and I didn't realize that.
You know, lentils, great source. Quinoa, which is a particular grain, has a very high source of protein.
What kind of, I love the name. I mean, what kind
quinoa.
of, like couscous or something?
It's very similar to couscous.
So you didn't know I knew that, did you? I know what couscous is.
These are different grains you might want to try. And then when you combine grains with the beans, you get a full source of protein. So you don't have to have meat to get your source of protein. And then most vegetables have a trace amount of protein in it. People don't realize that. So there are trace amounts of protein in your fruits and vegetables.
Wow, wow. What's the biggest area of resistance when you talk about your raw foods?
Oh, goodness.
Other than the fact that they're raw, they're not cooked.
Yeah, they're not
There's
cooked.
no butter on it or cheese.
The dairy products. I don't do dairy. And I don't, in the raw food diet, we don't promote dairy.
So broccoli with a cheese sauce wouldn't necessarily be part of the raw food?
No, it would not. Not at all. That's processed and it's coming from an animal. So it's no animal. The only animal byproduct which you will see in the raw food world, I'll put it that way, is honey. And that's probably about it, would be honey. But
well, there are a lot of wonderful medicinal properties associated with honey.
Exactly, there are. It's a very healing component or item. So honey is good. One of the resistance, you were going back to the resistance, would be meat. You know, people want their hamburger, the big thing. Chicken, I can't have chicken, you know, and I mean, you can have whatever you want. You know, it's up to you. You can have whatever you want, but you just need to be moderate. You know, we eat way too much protein, and that's why we have a lot of kidney diseases, a lot of high cholesterol. We eat more than we should. I think back in our
eat more than what we should of everything.
Of everything.
The portion control.
Except vegetables. We don't eat too much of vegetables.
Right, right. If you go like travel to Europe, and I've been blessed to go to Europe and places overseas, if you look at the portions that are served over there compared to the supersized portions that we have here, we understand why the United States is one of the fattest, that's probably not politically correct, one of the most overweight industrialized nations in the world because of our portions.
Portions and sedentary lifestyle. So those are two of the things that are, well, actually, one of the things I've read about and I found out is chronic disease. Most of our chronic disease is from 3 items, and those things are stress, malnutrition, and when I say malnutrition, I'm not talking about the poor kids you see in third world countries with the big belly because they haven't had enough food. Malnutrition is also obesity, and our country is a malnourished country.
Because you look at break the word up, mal, which means bad, nutrition, bad
food.
Nutrition.
And then the other thing would be dehydration. We don't drink enough water. And so we create an acidic system in our body, which is a breeding ground for cancer cells, for disease. We just create a breeding ground for sickness.
Now, how much water should a person drink?
What's recommended many times, and to me this is a goal because it's hard to just say, I'm going to drink this amount. And that's half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you would need to drink 50 ounces of water a day.
I weigh 103, so...
But most people, if you're 100 ounces of water a day, that's a lot of water. So if you can get to 64 ounces, so those, I mean, you can do 64 ounces when you go to 7-Eleven and get those 64, those milliliter, those big things of soda. So just take one of those after you've drank the soda out, use that for your water gauge.
You know, not even that, and I found that when I am good with water, in that I have to do something to the water. Just water by itself, I can't drink cold water, it takes my breath away. But I put a little bit of sweetener in it, a little bit of honey in it, a little bit of Crystal Light, something to kind of make it somewhat more interesting. And last night I had Chinese food, and when I was traveling in China, what people did on a regular basis, if they weren't drinking tea, they were drinking hot water. So I just had hot water with lemon in it last night. It was very, very refreshing because if you're going to clean out your pipes, literally, if I'm going to clean out the sludge in my garbage disposal, am I going to use cold water? Am I going to use hot water to melt that fat and get it through the system?
Speaking of water, you should have your water at room temperature or warm water. You should not drink ice cold water.
It's a shock to your system, isn't it?
It's a shock to your system. It lack of words, messes up your digestive system. It just kind of puts it in shock, and the acids in your system don't function the way they should with the cold water. So usually room temperature or hot water, warm water. So.
Wow, it's going to be kind of hard in Sacramento when it's 108 degrees outside. But I can tell the difference. Cold water it just takes my breath away. Other people only can drink it cold. Some people have ice. I can't do it ice, but a little cooler than room temperature is ideal for me.
And especially in the summertime, you have it a little bit cooler, but not ice cold. That's a shock. Especially, you shouldn't have water. Really, this is a contradiction to how we normally do things. You really shouldn't have water or any liquid while you're eating.
Really?
It dilutes your hydrocyc. I'm going to mess it up now. Your acids, your stomach acids, and so it just throws your acids off, and making your body think, okay, I don't have enough to dilute the food.
So I eat my meal and I have a gut bomb, and I don't have any water to wash it down or anything?
Well, if you're choking or something, yes, you get some water. But hydrochloric acid, that's what I was trying to think of. But the hydrochloric acid, it just dilutes it. So it doesn't allow your food to be dissolved as quickly as it should.
Well, when should you then drink your liquid?
Either probably a half hour before your meal or a half hour after your meal.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Is there any particular targeted group that you'd like to, that you'd try to give this information out to?
Well, my company is called RASTA, which stands for Raw, Simple, Tasty Alternatives. And what I'm gearing to, I'm targeting the African American community because
why that community?
They have the highest disparity rates of health. They're the highest in diabetes, the highest in obesity, the highest cancer rates. I mean, just that community is dying, and they're dying at disproportionate rates from everybody else. So I want to catch this community, and I work in black churches. I'm in different African American black organizations, so it's easy for me to target and get into that community. And so that's why I'm targeting that group, but I'm not excluding anybody else. So when I do workshops, everybody's welcome. So that's why I'm targeting that group. That's kind of my heart. I've had you speak on bereavement in your other episodes, and my mother passed away from pancreatic cancer, and we truly believe it had to do with, I truly believe, I'll put it that way, dietary, lifestyle, the stress, malnutrition, and the dehydration. So I think her body was set up for those cancer cells to come in.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Now, how do you get fats into your diet? I mean, since you've already wiped out the Whopper and the Big Mac.
Easy. You have avocados, you have olives, olive oil. So you have fats in those types of foods.
I guess if you read the
nuts,
Bible,
nuts and seeds.
That's mentioned very, very often. Olive oil, and nuts and olives and things of that sort. So those are really good sources.
Great sources of fat. In fact, if you look at the Bible, God created the fruits and vegetables, and you have nuts and seeds. Basically, all those things are all the components you need for a healthy diet. You have your carbohydrates, which all plant sources have carbohydrates. You have your proteins. I mentioned lentils, your beans. Those items have protein. And then you have your fats, your nuts and seeds. So all those components, which you see the pyramid, which the USDA recommends is the pyramid, we have all those components from the very beginning without having to put in all the meat. So that's
now,
something.
What are some of the benefits associated with using God's original eating plan?
Well, some of the benefits: more energy. You can have
diet
just
of
more
lower saturated fat.
Less fat. You'll have more of an alkaline system instead of an acidic system. And when I talk about acid and alkaline, if you've been in science classes before, there's the scale. you want to be neutral. There's the alkaline side and then there's the acidic side. Most Americans, the way we eat, we're very acidic. So you want to have more things that'll make our body more neutral. Other things that are benefit for this diet is you get alertness. You start having clearer thoughts. You can reduce weight. And so those are some of the things you can do.
I think that is true, because when I'm eating right, and I do have more energy. I do have, I mean, even if I cheat and I'll go and I'll have, 3 cake donuts. I can't eat 3 cake donuts, but I could probably eat 2 cake donuts. And I may enjoy them for a while, but after a bit, it just sits. All that concentrated fat and sugar will just sit in your stomach. And I would think that if you're trying to eat right, whether it's a raw foods diet or the Mediterranean diet, once you go off and go back to junk food, and that your body's going to give you some negative feedback.
Oh, when you go back to junk food, and if you've lost weight, that weight comes back faster than you've lost it. It comes back almost immediately. Just looking at it will will make it come right back on. So you just have to be very careful. And you think about it, you talk about the donuts. Basically you have paste in your system because that dough is nothing but paste, and that's hard to digest. It's just kind of
I would think also, not to be graphic, hard to eliminate.
Yes. So it may take some time for that to pass through, and it may stay in your system for a few days, especially with protein. People talk about animal protein. It stays in your system good, maybe 6 to 8 hours, if not longer. So you have to be careful about that.
That's exciting. Well, I'm sure you want to know what does this stuff taste like. Through the magic of television, we're going to show you some phenomenal dishes, and here they are right now. RCC magic. Here you go. Now, Yvonne, what are we going to do today? Before I jump into these, are these greens?
Those are greens.
Girl, I can't wait to get into the greens.
Well, first of all, I'm going to start you off with organic barley juice. This is what I take in the morning. Most people aren't getting their greens. If you don't like eating a lot of vegetables and everything, do it very quickly. This is from organic planted.
Does it have honey in it? Or?
No, this is real plain. Take a taste. Just to get your greens. It's kind of it's bland.
Can I just eat broccoli?
You can, but how many people really eat enough
broccoli? All right.
It's just kind of a bland taste.
It tastes like you think it would taste, okay? But I got it down. I mean, it's, whatever.
It's not
better than a fish oil tablet, so.
That's true. So you want to start off with something green. So if you can't get your greens by eating it, drink it.
All right.
That helps. So what we're going to do is start off with the dessert. So I gave you kind of the green. You're not crazy about that, but now we're going to go for a sweet.
All right, I'll do that.
We're going to go for the brownies. So to make raw brownies, we're going to start off with 2 cups of walnuts.
Okay, those are good. Good for the brain, good brain food.
One of the things about raw foods, some of the equipment that you need, which is very beneficial, a food processor and a good quality blender. That would be like a Vitamix or a Health Tech. They're high-powered, very high-powered. So we're going to put the walnuts in here, and we're going to grind them till they're very fine. Which just takes a few minutes, seconds, really.
Now, if I wanted to make it lumpier, could I make it lumpier, the walnuts?
Well, this is going to be your base, so you don't want this part fluffy.
Okay.
I do have some walnuts chopped up so we can have the walnuts inside.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, this is like the meal, that's right.
So it's like instead of your flour, this is our flour.
Okay, okay.
So, then next we're going to put in our dates. These are what's called medjool dates.
And I snuck one earlier. They are delicioso.
They're, I've cut them up, but they're really sweet. And this is one of the sweeteners in the raw food world a lot of people use, are dates.
I tasted that. I didn't think I liked dates till I tasted it. I mean, why are those different?
Different from...
I don't know.
They're just,
dates I've had, the kind you get in the package at Christmas that look like giant roaches.
Because these are raw.
Yeah,
these are raw and unprocessed.
Okay. Look like giant roaches. I couldn't eat it. I went, let me eat the roaches.
They're not the prettiest things in the world, but they're very sweet.
Sort of like me.
Oh, you're very pretty. So you're going to grind this up and let it start sticking together until you start seeing it. If you notice, it's starting to slow, and it'll start getting more sticky. Let's see.
Yeah, I can see why you would need a powerful food processor.
No, the little ones you buy at Target for like $20, those are not going to be.
Right. You burn them up.
You will burn them up quite a bit. All right. So we have our dates ground in there. And then next we're going to add a pinch of salt. This is what's called Himalayan sea salt. It's not processed iodized salt. And I'm just going to put a little bit.
I can't see any salt.
Well, it's not coming out too well. But you don't want to see a lot of salt.
That's true. This is yeah, too much salt in our diets anyway.
So, and we're going to also add, I'm just going to add, this is called agave. It's a sweetener. And it's a sweetener, it's like honey, but it's a little bit more liquidy than honey. But it has a lower, what's called glycemic index, which means it's not as sweet as honey, and it's probably one of the better things for diabetics to use. Not a lot, but just periodically. If you want to have something to sweeten your tea or coffee even, or cereal, a little bit of agave would be helpful.
Agave, I like the name.
It comes from the, I'm doing about maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon.
I think I'd like more.
It'll make it real, we're going to have stickier brownies.
That's okay, that's okay.
There we go. So,
not that I have a sugar issue, but.
And then I'm going to put in, this is raw cacao. It's raw cocoa, basically. And it's stronger. And this is about 1/2 cup. And for this recipe, you can go to my website, www.rastaforme.com.
Rasta for me.
And contact me, and I will send you, either I'll have it on the site, or you can ask for a particular recipe.
And we're going to have this particular recipe posted just a little bit, so right real fast.
I'm going to stir this. And as this is stirring, you'll see it's kind of dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. What happened to my water?
Water?
Water.
How much?
Just till it's not as dry. It's kind of by taste and how it looks. I want to add just a little bit more. Too much, you start having like a frosting look.
Right.
So you want to be careful with that. Oh, my gloves are sticking to that. A little bit more water.
I can do this. I'm helping.
She's helping. Oh, okay. We're looking pretty good. I don't know if I need. Check. No, we don't need any more. That's fine.
I'm not helping.
Be where I need your help. We are going to take this bowl, and you're going to get your fingers. This is fun if you have kids because they're going to kind of mush this. What we're going to do, we're going to fold in some chopped walnuts. We have some chopped walnuts, so it's like having a nutty brownie. So we'll take this out. All right. And then what I want you to do is fold in these nuts. Kind of.
Why can't I use a spoon?
It's fun with your hands.
Remember, some of us are control freaks. We like order.
Oh, the spoon gets more difficult. It's easier to control it with your hands, actually.
My mother used to make meatloaf with her hands. I never did it. Wet meat.
How'd you do it with your? Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's why you have gloves. We can use the gloves.
I'm okay. I don't want to need therapy. Okay. More?
We'll put a few more.
We'll give some of the crew. It's kind of a nutty crew to match the nutty host. Okay. Now what do I do?
Now, this is very simple. This is a very simple recipe. Now we're going to put it in a tin. Mainly you want to get a square, or tin's probably not the best, but we're going to make this a gift for somebody. So we're just going to put it in this container and spread it around so it will look like brownies, like you made a pan of brownies.
That's kind of fun. So you could actually play with your food and not get in trouble.
And once this, we're going to just kind of smooth it around so it's even all around. One thing, if you play with it too much, you'll notice, see how it's getting shiny?
Right.
The nuts, the oil in the nuts. So you don't want to mix it too long in the blender or mush it around too much.
Okay.
Because it gets oily. It'll get very oily. So, and what we're going to do is sprinkle the rest of them on top. Then what you would do after this is put in the refrigerator for about 2 hours. And then when you're through, cut them up and you have brownies.
Wow. Well, the proof is in the pudding. Dexter, you want to join us? We have Dexter McNamara, who is our executive director for the Interfaith Service Bureau. Dexter, come around. You're going to be our guinea. I mean, you're going to be our
quality
taster.
control expert.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Those look fantastic. They look very much just like brownies. Good old regular old brownies.
They're chewy. They're
good.
Chewy. Yeah, a little nutty. Chocolatey.
Now, one thing that's nice, since sometimes I have been known to eat maybe more sweets than I need.
Yes.
This doesn't taste that super sweet. Okay. It tastes very nice, but not the overwhelming. I really like this. This is good
do you have any raw organic ice cream that you can eat with this?
Actually, when you visit the restaurant, they may have some ice cream ready for you.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yummy.
All right. This is very good.
Let's see. And you didn't die, and it's healthy.
I didn't die.
Do you feel younger, more vibrant by just eating the brownie?
He's ready to run through
Absolutely. Excuse me. I think I'll leave and go out and run several miles.
Okay,
right
you
now.
do that.
All right.
Run through a troop and jump over a wall.
This is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dexter.
Thank you.
That's Dexter McNamara. Now, I want to taste these greens, girl. What are these? Talk to me.
I made these in advance. These are what we're going to call down-home greens.
Hey.
Now, what they're made of, now I will say, I'm a busy mom, wife, working woman. I got the packaged greens. Please forgive me.
That's okay. You got them.
And with this, I have many spices. I have onions. I chopped up onions, garlic.
What's the juice?
The juice is from the greens, and you want to soften. These are not cooked. See, that's one thing you want to realize. It's not cooked. So how are we going to soften greens if they're not cooked?
Well, you can't do the microwave because that's cooking.
No, what you're going to do is soften them through using vinegar, using your acids, vinegar and lemon juice.
Can I try it?
Sure. And then I put mushrooms in here.
These are smoking. I mean, these are really genuinely good.
So mushrooms can be your meat. Instead of the ham hock, you have, and it has a texture of kind of a meat.
This would be so good with a ribeye. No, just kidding. just a little bereavement humor.
And you know what? This is a salad. Basically, this is just a salad. So if you want to try something different instead of the same old romaine and iceberg lettuce, try a salad like this, and you'll have the taste of down-home greens.
And they're still a little bit crunchy, which I like. Most people, I think, tend to overcook their vegetables. This is wonderful.
So I have the recipe for that. People want to come onto my website, we can share that with them.
Yvonne, that was simply delicious. I think I'm a believer. I'm not sure I'm going to do 100% raw foods, but I'm definitely going to be trying it. It was absolutely delicious. But what we're going to do, we have the advantage of actually going to one of the restaurants that Yvonne really highly recommends. It's called The Art of Foods, and it's operated by Richard Hemsley, and he was covered recently in a local article about his restaurant. Let's see what Richard's up to right now. Now, you just witnessed a wonderful cooking demonstration by the lovely Yvonne Edwards. And Yvonne told us about this wonderful restaurant. I use wonderful a lot, I just realized. It's called The Art of Foods. And we're here today at The Art of Foods. And you can see that it's a very interesting kind of eclectic restaurant. When we came here, we didn't anticipate meeting these two lovely ladies, but we have met two lovely ladies who happened to stumble into the restaurant. So I want them to introduce themselves and then tell you briefly a little bit about their background.
Well, hi, my name is Carol, and I'm from up the hill, Meadow Vista, just out of Auburn, and enjoy all kinds of food. I've never been to a Whole Foods restaurant before, but I've got a friend who's interested in eating gluten-free, and so we came in to have lunch.
And while she said it was whole food, it really is raw food. And raw food means that it's just not cooked. I mean, it's in the raw state. So it's not cooked. It's not like it's vegetarian. It is vegetarian, but there's no heat process. I guess that's the best way to say that is used in the preparation of the food.
Hello, I'm Tina. I live in Applegate, a little bit above Carroll. And I've been actually interested in health foods for many years. And so I'm excited about learning to eat healthier. I have a really good friend, it used to be my pastor, who has been diagnosed with lung cancer, and he has become a vegan since then, and it's really helping him health-wise. And so we're excited to tell him about this place, to come down. And then also my youngest son, he's fighting testicular cancer, and that was a year ago. So he's also getting into the vegan and raw foods. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's why we're here. I'm also have a wheat allergy, so I have definitely started eating healthier also.
You know, it's interesting because a few years ago, I knew nothing about people who were gluten intolerant. And it turns out that my older sister is gluten intolerant. And it's really far more common than people realize. I had a nutritionist tell me that most people are not designed to eat gluten in the first place. We're just not designed. There's other people tend to have a stronger reaction to it than others. Now, we're going to have a brief interview with Richard Helmsley, and Richard is the creative force behind the Art of Foods. Now, right before he sat down, we saw, I think you did too, the bursting burrito. Oh my gosh, what is in the bursting burrito?
The bursting burrito is one of my world famous creations, along with the tostada, literally world famous. It is, the meat of it is the fully sprouted sunflower seeds. And then those fully sprouted sunflower seeds are made into a pate with onions and garlic, all the traditional Mexican spices, cumin, oregano, lime juice. It's made to very much replicate a Mexican taco meat. And then we put the shredded lettuce, tomatoes, avocado, and all the good stuff that you would expect to have on a burrito.
Wow. Now, Richard, tell us a little bit about the Art of Foods and you. Did you just wake up one morning and just, I don't know, got rid of the burgers and fries and all the other madness that we eat? I mean, how did you come to where you are now with regard to your relationship with food?
Wow, it's a short question with a long answer.
Okay.
I would, let's see, how would we shorten that up for the most brief synopsis? About 7 years ago, I woke up to the fact that I have been depressed, or I was depressed and not feeling on top of the world like I would expect to be for being a person following my passion. Mm-hmm. And my passion is food. I love to create food. I love the feedback from the persons eating the food. I love to create that excitement.
I'm taking him home, by the way.
I love to make people happy by giving them what they need in terms of the culinary world, and making the transition from preparing standard American food to the raw organic vegan food. I'm still playing with all the same exact ingredients, just learning how to leave out the elements that are more detrimental. So this is a learning progress, and every day I'm learning from everybody that walks in the door different elements that work for people, that don't work for people, and making things most bioavailable. That's what I've learned is the most important thing about our food. What we take into our body must be bioavailable in order to benefit the body. Otherwise, it's a detriment to the body.
So basically you're saying we are what we eat?
Absolutely. That's a very, very true adage. Mm-hmm. That literally your body is making new cells and building new parts of your body from what you're taking into your body. So if you're taking in a hydrogenated, nutrient-free food, then your body is starving and is doing the best that it can to create new cells and new fresh skin, new hair follicles, everything from what we give it. So if we give it what it needs, being the most freshest leafy greens, the freshest fruits, nuts, and seeds, then the body will have a much easier time creating what you need to have that vibrant, youthful skin and glow.
You know, it's interesting. Obviously, our eating habits have had a direct effect on the obesity level here in the United States. I mean, all you have to do is do a little traveling to other countries, and you'll find out we are really in the middle of a health crisis. What is your opinion about you are what you eat? And I guess if you supersize it, you get supersized.
Well, I think Martin Spurlock did a really good job of representing what happens when you go in that direction of eating the golden arches, and only the golden arches. That's the supersize
yes.
me.
That was a scary movie.
That's the best horror flick I ever saw.
It is. And see, they even called the cops. Oh, there it is. There's a rescue. They're going to go rescue someone that had a double.
I think somebody just had a double down the street. So what is your question? Is what is my opinion on the health crisis?
Right.
We live in a free country.
You think it's really a crisis?
It's beyond crisis mode. I don't even have a word for it. It is a beyond natural disaster. It's a man-made disaster that we're experiencing right now. Because we live in this beautiful free country, we have the ability to do whatever we choose to do, which for most people that's focusing on the man-made economy, not the God-given economy. So the man-made economy is what we are all focusing on because we have to make money in order to support ourselves so we can pay our bills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people are creating products so that they can make money, which is their number one focus. And so they're maintaining their focus, and they're doing a great job of maintaining their focus on creating that revenue. Unfortunately, the number one cause should be the health of everybody on the planet and the health of the planet itself. Unfortunately, that's not the case, so people are making things and they're selling them through the marketing, through media, and they're accomplishing their goals of selling less than optimally healthful products to the people with great marketing. Now, if we could take that marketing and apply it over to our healthy foods, then we would see an eradication of the conflicts and crisis that we're experiencing in the world, where people are unhappy, miserable with themselves, unhappy in their jobs, unhappy in all aspects of their lives because number one isn't being taken care of. If our body's not being taken care of, if our body's not getting what it needs in order to sustain and grow and maintain a fresh, vibrant, youthful mentality and perspective, then we're going to become angry and bitter.
Now, are you a person of faith? You're a person of faith. Tell me a little about your faith background.
I believe that we are all children of God. I believe in Christ as our Savior, and I believe that when we take Christ into our heart, mind, and spirit, that we will have a completely unified being, and then we can more fully communicate with our fellow human beings, our brothers and sisters, to help give them a hand up, not a hand out. I'm surrounded by people asking for a hand out, and I continually put my hand out to offer them a hand up. And that is what I firmly believe is what will help our society, our community to evolve and to progress, is to find that Christ light in ourselves and to see that in each other.
Well, you definitely have a glow about you. And did you get a close-up of his crazy eye? This man has crazy blue eye. Look, crazy blue. Look at that, crazy blue eyes. And that. We want to thank you so much, Richard, for allowing us to descend upon you and to visit your wonderful restaurant and continue with your wonderful work of giving the people a hand up.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to work with you.
You
and
also.
Thank you for the interview.
Now I want to introduce you to Brooke Preston. She is a co-owner and one of the chefs here at the Art of Foods, and she's going to give us some of the logistics associated with the restaurant. During the end of our last interview, we should have had it taped. One of our wonderful patrons that were on earlier was talking about how wonderful the burrito that she had was, and she said she had never eaten raw food before. And Richard looks at her deadpan and says, "You've never eaten an apple before?" So we kind of forget that is raw food. So Brooke, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a co-owner of the Art of Food here, and co-chef with Chef Richard, and I became a raw foodist about 2.5 years ago. And what else? What else do you want to know?
Tell us a little bit about some of the groups that actually come and patronize you.
Oh, well, many groups come here to enjoy our food. We've got a group recently that we're doing a Daniel fast from Calvary Christian Center.
Now,
down
what
the
exactly
road.
is a Daniel fast?
A Daniel fast
Does it involve a lion in a den or anything?
No, I think we're safe in this day. But a Daniel fast is a fast where you are really just eating all whole foods. So that would be anything grown, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and that's it. So everything that we offer here can be had on a Daniel fast. You can have gourmet ice cream. You can have a burrito.
Did they have ice cream back in Daniel's time?
Well, I'm not so sure about that. I don't think so.
But they could have. They could have.
But they could have. They could have. So yeah, basically, Organic Sacramento comes and visits us quite often. Any vegans that are looking for a place for fresh food.
I bet you this would be like Nirvana for Seventh-day Adventists.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We have our technical director and our director. They're both Seventh-day Adventists. They're always on the prowl for something that's in keeping with their faith. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the logistics associated with your hours? When are you open?
Oh.
Well, tell us first of all where you're located. We know where you are, but tell them where you are.
Okay. We're at 1825 Del Paso Boulevard. We are smack in between Sacramento, California, in between Arden Way and El Camino. And we are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10:30 in the morning until 9:30 at night.
Now, do you serve breakfast?
We don't have a traditional breakfast to serve other than, we have gorgeous smoothies and we have cinnamon rolls and various
no
goodies
bacon and
like
eggs?
that. We don't do bacon and eggs here, no. But
Richard just gave me a look, and it wasn't a look of love.
So, yeah, we have all kinds of goodies for breakfast.
Now, what's the biggest challenge you find yourself as a co-owner of such a unique restaurant?
Keeping up with the demand, really.
Keeping up with the demand?
Absolutely. We fill our case, our grab-and-go item case, and it empties out very quickly. Just keeping up with the flow of business, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I wanted to, give up my burgers and I don't eat red meat, but give up my, Popeye's chicken. I do, yes. I eat Popeye's chicken on occasion. If I was to give that, what would be the biggest bit of advice you'd give someone like me that needed to come into the promised land?
I would just say start eating more whole foods, more living foods, adding to your diet instead of subtracting. And I guarantee you that the more living foods you have in your diet, the more living foods you're going to want. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be your craving. You're going to lose those cravings for greasy cooked foods.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, you really will.
Now, Brooke, is there a special item that you really enjoy preparing that you'd like to share with our viewers this evening?
Well, I think every item on our menu is amazing, but one of the things that I think that people really gravitate towards is maybe our lasagna. It's a very rich, flavorful meal, and it's gorgeous to look at.
Lasagna without the noodles? What do you do?
Exactly. So we use marinated squash, seasonal squash, as noodles, and we make our own almond cheese here. So it's just like your traditional ricotta, except it's not in dairy, mm-hmm. of course. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful entree.
Wonderful. Well, we want to thank all of you for tuning in this evening. We've had a stratified view of raw foods. We had Yvonne Edwards come and give us an in the studio demonstration that was really informative, and she helped us understand the psychology of raw foods. We had two patrons who came in, had never ever been here before, so they're new patrons, and they thoroughly enjoyed their meal, particularly the presentation. We then spoke to Richard Helmsley, who's the creative force behind the art of raw foods, and now we're speaking to Brooke. So we want to thank you so much. Make sure you do stop by this wonderful restaurant. As we indicated, it's at 1825 Del Paso Boulevard in Sacramento, and they've got some yummy things here. The art of raw foods. Now, aren't you glad you tuned in on this one? We learned an awful lot, and you'll be healthier for it. If you want more information, please contact Yvonne. Yvonne, what is your website?
The website is www.rastaforme.com.
Great. Thank you so much. Now tune in next week, because next week we're going to start our interfaith spotlights. I'm not going to tell you which faith we're going to be spotlighting, but you tune in and you'll be pleasantly surprised. Thank you for joining us. Good night. Hi, this is Bea Bailey, and I'm your television host for Beyond Bereavement, but today we're down at East Lawn, and I have the pleasure of introducing you to Alan Fisher, who is not only our wonderful sponsor for the program, our largest sponsor, but also the president of East Lawn. Alan, can you tell us a little bit about the origin of East Lawn?
Absolutely, Bea. Thank you for coming down to the park this morning. East Lawn Memorial Park actually started in 1904, so it's a little over 100 years old. I haven't been here quite that long, but the park has, and this is a wonderful flagship for the East Lawn family of companies. Nowadays, we actually have, in addition to East Lawn Memorial Park, we have 2 other cemeteries and 4 funeral homes to take care of the needs of families in the area.
That's wonderful. Now, one of the funeral homes is a pet cemetery. Is that correct? What is the history behind a pet cemetery?
That cemetery actually started about 15 years ago. My predecessor, one of the previous presidents of East Lawn, Don Hart, that was kind of close to his heart, he determined, and just looking at the Sacramento area, we found that many families are very, very close to their pets. Pets are family members in many ways, and so we developed the Sierra Hills Pet Cemetery. One of the interesting things that we found was that we often have people come back to the cemetery again and again to bring flowers for their pets. It's quite an interesting thing to see that devotion that people have to their pets.
Well, that's wonderful. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take a break and we're going to go inside. I want you to see this building from the inside. It is absolutely a magnificent structure. Come on, join us. Alan, this building is absolutely magnificent. How old is it?
It actually was built in 1926.
Wow.
And I haven't been there that long either, but it's a beautiful building. We're proud of it. It was actually built as a mausoleum, which is an above-ground entombment facility for area families. Come on, I'll show you around.
Okay, great. Where are we now? I mean, to be really honest, this is my second time being up here. The very first time I came here, I looked around, I thought, wow, what an interesting florist shop. Look at all the lovely flowers. And I thought, well, wait a minute, there's small containers here. So where are we, Alan?
This is actually the second floor of the mausoleum building. Most of this wing that where we are right now is devoted to cremation glass front niches. The niches are positioned such that you can actually see in to the urns themselves, but what a lot of the families like nowadays, and we're seeing more and more that people are doing that, it's actually a window into the person's life as well. And so mementos, medals, awards, pictures can be placed right in the glass front niches with the deceased.
Oh, how nice. Lovely. Let's walk.
Okay.
Alan, this building is absolutely amazing. It reminds me of the Winchester Mystery House. It just winds around and around and up and down. Now, how many people actually are buried or entombed within the mausoleum and then out on the grounds?
Overall, there are about 100,000 people that we've had the privilege of serving here. So it's a small city within a city. But one of the things in this building is kind of interesting. About 10 to 15% of the population prefers above ground entombment as opposed to traditional in-ground burial. So as the need has arisen, we've continued to add more and more of these mausoleum crypts for the population. And we actually have another building on the grounds as well for the same purpose.
Now, Alan, we're sitting here in a very cozy spot in your location. It's the chapel. You all recently went through a renovation of this area, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I became president of East Lawn. It's been about 4 years ago now, and one of the things that I really felt passionately about was the ability to not remodel or do a renovation of this historic building, but actually do a restoration of the building. So what we decided to do was we found some sketches, some artist renditions, and some pictures of how this building appeared in 1926 and tried to be true to that original look and feel. And this is a result, and we're very, very proud of the way that it turned out.
Now, you mentioned that there was a special story. Those of you that have watched the program, there's the entrance of a pen and ink drawing of the staircase that you saw earlier. And it dissolves, and you see me trying not to stumble down the stairs and things of that sort. Now, is there a story associated with that particular drawing?
Absolutely. One of our grounds supervisor, he's the mausoleum foreman, he happened to be up in the attic of this building, again, built in 1926. He was up there, and he found some old artists' drawings, pencil drawings that had been done. And as near as we can tell, they were done in about 1940, 1950, somewhere in there. And we think it's from maybe Sacramento City College that they had a contest, because we found some that are first prize, second prize, third prize, and we found these drawings, and that actually provided the inspiration and some of the detail for the way this building was restored.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to tour East Lawn, and thank you for tuning in.